Hello, American patriots. Are you a supporter of the Second Amendment? Are you a responsible gun owner? If so, then you know the day will come that you're going to need a trusted and qualified gunsmith. When that day arrives, I want you to contact the man that I trust with my weapons, Mr. Delaney Jackson, owner of Jumpin, a gunsmith and appraisal. Besides being a professional gunsmith, Delaney is a true American patriot. And, a little trivia for you, he's also the manager and guitar player for country music legend Mr. Mark Chestnut. So when the time arrives, take your weapons to the man who treats my weapons like they're his own, my trusted friend, Mr. Delaney Jackson at Jumpin' Jack's Gunsmith and Appraisal. Contact information and website information is in the description of this video below. Thank you and God bless.
I, Douglas Ducote, an American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially domestic. I, Douglas Ducote, an American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially domestic. Say it with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hello, American patriots, and welcome to another edition of the Douglas Ducote Show. You had many places you could be tonight, but you chose to be here with me, and for that, I am forever grateful. Tonight, we're going to dedicate this to the current news that is on every network across planet Earth, to include just about every publication as far as newspapers are concerned. And that would be what is currently happening to former President Donald J. Trump and the FBI. Then the second part of tonight's show, I plan to bring on my former co-host from when I was on Real World Witness. She is still doing Real World Witness radio, but she has not popped on yet, so I'm not sure if maybe something happened to her connection out on the West Coast, but we'll see. Anyhow, I'm going to start with reading you a statement, August 8th, 2022, yesterday. Statement by Donald J. Trump, 45th President of the United States of America. There are dark times for our nation, as my beautiful home, Mar-a-Lago and Palm Beach, Florida, is currently under siege, raided, and occupied by a large group of FBI agents. Nothing like this has ever happened to a president of the United States before. After working and cooperating with the relevant government agencies, this unannounced raid on my home was not necessary or appropriate. It is prosecutorial misconduct, the weaponization of the justice system, and an attack by radical left Democrats who desperately don't want me to run for president in 2024, especially based on recent polls, and who will likewise do anything to stop Republicans and conservatives in the upcoming midterm elections. Such an assault could only take place in broken third world countries. Sadly, America has now become one of those countries. Corrupt at a level not seen before. They even broke into my safe. What is the difference between this and Watergate? Their operatives broke into the Democrat National Committee. Here, in reverse, Democrats broke into the home of the 45th President of the United States. The political prosecution of President Donald J. Trump has been going on for years. with now fully debunked Russia scam, impeachment hoax number 1, impeachment hoax number 2, and so much more. It just never ends. It is a political targeting at the highest level. Hillary Clinton was allowed to delete and asset wash 33,000 emails after they were subpoenaed by Congress. Absolutely nothing has happened to hold her accountable. She even took antique furniture and other items from the White House. I stood up to American bureaucracy and corruption. I restored power to the people and truly delivered for our country like we have never seen before. The establishment hated it. Now, as they watch my endorsement candidates win big victories and see my dominance in all polls, they're trying to stop me and the Republican Party once more. The lawlessness, political persecution, and witch hunt must be exposed and stopped. I will continue to fight for the great American people. Now, I'd like to read you something directly from the FBI's website. Our mission: protect the American people and uphold the Constitution of the United States. Our priorities: protect the U.S. against foreign intelligence, espionage, and cyber operations. Combat significant cyber criminal activity. Combat public corruption at all levels. Our core values: respect, integrity, accountability, leadership, diversity, compassion, fairness, rigorous obedience to the Constitution. Now, we're going to come back to that in a moment. And as I read you this next piece, I would like you to think about those things that I just read from the FBI website, especially how they're designed in the FBI to combat public corruption at all levels. I want to take you back to July 5th, 2016. Washington, D.C. FBI National Press Office. Statement by FBI Director James B. Comey on the investigation of Secretary Hillary Clinton's use of a personal email system. Now, I'm going to brief through this, but this and everything I'm talking about here tonight, if you would like to read it in whole, please do so. A link is in the description of this show. Remarks delivered at press conference. Good morning. And this is the director of the FBI, James Comey, at the time. I'm here to give you an update on the FBI's investigation of Secretary Clinton's use of a personal email system during her time as Secretary of State. After a tremendous amount of work over the last year, the FBI is completing its investigation and referring the case to the Department of Justice for prosecutive decisions. What I would like to do today is tell you three things: what we did, what we found, and what we are recommending to the Department of Justice. This will be an unusual statement in at least a couple of ways. First, I'm going to include more detail about our process than I ordinarily would, because I think the American people deserve those details in a case of intense public interest. Second, I have not coordinated or reviewed this statement in any way with the Department of Justice or any other part of the government. They do not know what I'm about to say. Now, let me stop for just a second and tell you that I, like many American patriots, were glued to that press conference, hanging on every word. I want to start by thanking the FBI employees who did remarkable work in this case. Once you have a better sense of how much we've done, you will understand why I'm so grateful and proud of their efforts. So, first, what have we done? The investigation began as a referral from the Intelligence Community Inspector General in connection with Secretary Clinton's use of a personal email server during her time as Secretary of State. The referral focused on whether classified information was transmitted on that personal system. And this following couple of statements is something that you really need to pay close attention to. Our investigation looked at whether there is evidence classified information was improperly stored or transmitted on that personal system in violation of federal statute, making it a felony to mishandle classified information either intentionally or in a grossly negligent way. Or a second statute making it a misdemeanor to knowingly remove classified information from appropriate systems or storage facilities. Secretary Clinton used several different servers and administrators of those servers during her 4 years at the State Department and used numerous mobile devices to view and send email on that personal domain. As new servers and equipment were employed, older servers were taken out of service, stored, and decommissioned in various ways. Piecing all of that back together to gain as full an understanding as possible the ways in which personal email was used for government work has been a painstaking undertaking requiring thousands of hours. FBI investigators have also read all of the approximately 30,000 emails provided by Secretary of State Department in December of 2014, where an email was assessed as possibly containing classified information. The FBI referred the email to any U.S. government agency that was likely owner of information in the email, so that agency could make a determination as to whether the email contained classified information at the time it was sent or received, or whether there was reason to classify the email now, even if it contained or its content was not classified at the time it was sent. That is the process sometimes referred to as up-classifying. From the group of 30,000 emails returned from the State Department, 110 emails and 52 email chains have been determined by the owning agency to contain classified information at the time they were sent or received. 8 of those chains contain information that was top secret at the time they were sent. 36 chains contain secret information at the time, and 8 contain confidential information. Separate from those, about 2,000 additional emails were up-classified to make them confidential. The information in those had not been classified at the time of the emails were sent. The FBI also discovered several thousand work-related emails that were not in the group of 30,000 that were returned by Secretary of State Hillary Clinton in 2014. We found those additional emails in various ways. Some have been deleted over the years, and we found traces of them on devices that support or were connected to the private email domain. Others we found by reviewing the archived government email accounts of people who had been government employees at the same time as Secretary Clinton, including high-ranking officials at other agencies people with whom a Secretary of State might naturally correspond. This helped us uncover work-related emails that were not among the 30,000 produced by the State Department. Still others we recovered from the laborious review of the millions of email fragments dumped into the slack space of the server decommission back in 2013. With respect to the thousands of emails we found that were not among those produced by state, agencies have concluded that 3 of those were classified at the time they were sent or received, 1 at the secret level and 2 at the confidential level. Some of the additional work-related emails were recovered among those deleted as personal by Secretary Clinton's lawyers when they reviewed and sorted her emails for production. The lawyers doing the sorting of Secretary Clinton did not individually read the content of all of her emails, as we did for those available to us. Instead, they relied on header information and used search terms to try to find all work-related emails among the reported more than 60,000 total emails remaining on Secretary Clinton's personal system in 2014. It is highly likely their search terms missed some work-related emails and that we later found them. For example, in the mailboxes of other officials or in the slack space of the server. It is also likely that there are other work-related emails that did not be produced by state and that we did not find elsewhere, and that they are gone because they deleted all emails they did not return to state. And lawyers cleaned their devices in such a way as to preclude complete forensic recovery. In addition to our technical work, we interviewed many people, from those involved in setting up and maintaining the various interactions of Secretary Clinton's personal server, to staff members with whom she corresponded on email, to those involved in the email production of state, and finally, Secretary Clinton herself. Last, we have done extensive work to understand what indications there might be of compromise by hostile actors in connection with the personal email operations. That's what we have done. Now, let me tell you what we found. Although we did not find clear evidence that Secretary Clinton or her colleagues intended to violate laws governing the handling of classified information, there is evidence that they were extremely careless in their handling of very sensitive, highly classified information. For example, 7 email chains concerned matters that were classified at the top secret special access program level when they were sent and received. These chains involved Secretary Clinton both sending emails about those matters and receiving emails from others about the same matter. There is evidence to support conclusion that any reasonable person in Secretary Clinton's position or in the position of those government employees with whom she was corresponding about these matters should have known that an unclassified system was no place for that conversation. In addition to this highly sensitive information, we also found information that was properly classified as secret by the U.S. intelligence community at the time it was discussed on email. None of these emails should have been on any kind of unclassified system, but the presence is especially concerning because all of those emails were housed on unclassified personal servers, not even supported by full-time security staff like those that we use in all government departments and agencies of the U.S. government, or even with a commercial service like Gmail. Separately, it's important to say something about the making of classified information. Only a very small number of the emails containing classified information or markings indicating the presence of classified information. But even if information is marked classified in an email, participants who know or should know that the subject matter is classified are still obligated to protect it. While not focusing of our investigation, we also developed evidence that the security culture of the State Department in general, and with respect to use of unclassified email systems in particular, was generally lacking in any kind of care for classified information found elsewhere in the government. With respect to potential computer intrusion by hostile actors, we do not find direct evidence that Secretary Clinton's personal email domain. It is various configurations since 2009 when they were successfully hacked. We do assess that hostile actors gain access to the private commercial email accounts of people with whom Secretary Clinton was in regular contact from her personal account. We also assess that Secretary Clinton's use of her personal email domain was both known by a large number of people and readily apparent. She also used her personal email extensively while outside the United States, including sending and receiving work-related emails in the territory of sophisticated adversaries. Given that combination of factors, we assessed it is possible that hostile actors gain access to Secretary Clinton's personal email account. So that's what we found. Finally, with respect to our recommendation to the Department of Justice. In our system, the prosecutors make the decision about whether charges are appropriate based on evidence the FBI has helped collect. Although we don't normally make public our recommendations to the prosecutors, we frequently make recommendations and engage in productive conversations with prosecutors about their resolution, what may be appropriate given the evidence. In this case, given the importance of the matter, I think unusual transparency is in order. Although there is evidence of potential violations of the statute regarding the handling of classified information, our judgment is that no reasonable prosecutor would bring such a case. Prosecutors necessarily weigh a number of factors before bringing charges. There are obvious considerations like strength of the evidence, especially regarding intent. Responsibility decisions also considered the content of a person's actions and how similar situations have been handled in the past. And looking back at our investigation into mishandling or removal of classified information, we cannot find a case that would support bringing criminal charges on these facts. All the cases prosecuted involve some combination of clearly intentional and willful mishandling of classified information, or vast quantities of material exposed in such a way as to support an inference of international misconduct or indications of disloyalty to the United States, or efforts to obstruct justice. We do not see those things here. To be clear, this does not suggest that any similar circumstances, a person who engaged in this activity would face no consequences. To the contrary, those individuals are often subject to security or administrative sanctions, but that is not what we are deciding now. As a result, although the Department of Justice makes final decisions on matters like this, we're expressing to Justice our views that no charges are appropriate in this case. I know there will be intense public debate in the wake of this recommendation, as there was throughout this investigation. What I can assure the American people is that this investigation was done completely, honestly, and independently. No outside influence of any kind was brought to bear. I know there are many opinions expressed by people who were not part of the investigation, including people in government, but none of that mattered to us. Options are irrelevant, and they were all uninformed by insight into our investigation, because we did the investigation the right way. Only facts matter, and the FBI found them here in an entirely apolitical and professional way. I couldn't be prouder to be a part of this organization. Let's go back and go over something he said in the beginning of this. Our investigation looked at whether there is evidence classified information was improperly stored or transmitted on that personal system. He said there was. In violation of federal statute, making it a felony to mishandle classified information, either intentionally, they said she didn't, that they could find, or in a grossly negligent way, which she did, and he made it clear. Or a second statute making it a misdemeanor to knowingly remove classified information from appropriate systems or storage facilities, which she did. So the director of the FBI came out, held a press conference, and told the American people all the crimes, federal crimes, that Hillary Clinton did and those in her inner circle. And then decided, we're not going to prosecute it. But that doesn't mean that if anybody else does this, we won't nail their ass to the cross. That's what the man did. And the FBI wonders why we have absolutely zero confidence in their ass. This should be very, very clear. The American people have absolutely no respect for the agency called the Federal Bureau of Investigation, because they have become a political arm of the Democrats. Period. There is no other way you can look at what has been going on for the past 3+ years without coming to that conclusion. Any reasonable person, to use wording from James Comey, any reasonable person would look at this evidence and lock the bitch away, just like you would anyone else that did the exact same thing. But yet, the Justice Department and the FBI turned a blind eye to her corruption. Why would you circumvent the system by putting a private server in a basement of a freaking mom and pop business with no security if you weren't trying to hide something? Why would your attorneys take all the devices that you're not using anymore and rotating them out and see to it that everything on them is deleted in a way that the FBI can't recover them unless you're hiding something? And then the FBI goes on this witch hunt of Russia, Russia, Russia. And we found out through everything that's taken place with all the hearings and all the investigations that the FBI all along knew that the dossier was fake, that Trump did not collude with Russia. And in all the investigations, it was determined there was no Russia collusion. Yet, FBI agents like Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, who were the kingpins of this corrupt investigation at the time, got a free pass. And they let all these people walk. When was the last time you saw a Democrat, political Democrat, prosecuted by the FBI? We could sit here and name off all the Republicans all freaking night long. We could start with Roger Stone. The list goes on and on and on. And then during the Russia investigation, when the FBI dove deep into trying to find collusion and they couldn't, instead of saying that person is innocent and we didn't find anything, oh, hell no. They kept digging deeper until they found something they could charge them with. Not a single person in that FBI investigation was charged with colluding with Russia. Not one. Although one of Hillary Clinton's attorneys was. Although we know that Hillary Clinton and her organization paid for the Steele dossier. They paid for it to make up this horrible story. And here we are. The FBI goes and raids President Trump's house. Now, the only thing that's coming out of this right now, and it's very, very limited, is that the raid was based on supposedly some classified information in paperwork that Trump removed from the White House and took to Mar-a-Lago when he left. Now, did he do that? I don't know. He has admitted that there were things that they moved out of the White House, document-wise. When they brought this up, he went back and looked at it, had his people look at it, and went, oh, wait a minute. This must be what they're talking about. It's the National Archives that brought this whole thing up. And those boxes were turned back over to the National Archives via the FBI. So there was cooperation taking place between the Trump organization and the FBI. And all of a sudden, for some unknown reason, they go in and they raid his house, and they're there all day going through all of his shit and his family stuff. Tyranny comes to mind right now. Now, let's talk for a moment about, besides Hillary Clinton and how they let her walk, everything I just read you that James Comey, the director of the FBI, put out in that statement makes what Trump did look like a walk in the fucking park. This is nuts that that woman got away with this. Now, I will take a moment and say that the only person to point the blame at for that is the man who's pissed off right now that the FBI raided his house. He had the opportunity. He told us he was going to drain the swamp. He told us he was going to put that bitch in jail for what she did. And he didn't. He let her go. It was his decision not to move forward and have them prosecute her. And then he put people in charge of the Department of Justice and the FBI that didn't like him. And that didn't make any sense. I still can't wrap my head around how he picked those two incompetent nut jobs to run anything. I wouldn't let him vacuum a room, much less run the Department of Justice. And then he didn't clean house and get rid of all these holdovers from the Obama people. Now, let's talk about some other things that the FBI just let slide. Treasonous acts. Let's talk about treasonous acts. Joe Biden, current president of the United States, sets up a withdrawal from Afghanistan in a way in such a short period of time and gives a directive to our Department of Defense that you've got X amount of hours to make this evacuation take place and get our people out of there, and doesn't give them time to withdraw the equipment, and left behind on the battlefield billions of dollars worth of our military equipment, helicopters, planes, guns, rockets, bullets, you name it. And it all fell into the terrorist hands. That is aiding and abetting the enemy. That is a treasonous act, FBI. Look it the fuck up. Obama. Let's talk about treasonous acts. Where we had a soldier that didn't like his country and wanted to be a part of the Taliban and not America. And he abandoned his unit and he went to the Taliban. They gave him a place to hide out. Of course, in the beginning, we didn't know what happened to him. And over the process of trying to find him, hundreds of more American soldiers were killed in those missions. And then it finally comes to be what really happened, and they abandoned his post, and he didn't like America anymore, and basically he's a traitor. And President Obama approved the release of 5 captured on the battlefield terrorists responsible for killing American service members, traded them for one Sergeant Bird Dog, a traitor to America. He gave them 5 terrorists to get this one traitor back. That's aiding and abetting the enemy. That is a treasonous act, FBI. But why does Biden and Obama get a pass? Why aren't you looking into that? Then there's Hunter Biden, Mr. Crackhead. We know, and I reported it in my last show, how the director of the FBI testified in front of Congress how upset he is that FBI agents made it appear to be a fake story, the whole laptop that was left behind and then found and then eventually turned over. The FBI agents lied, and they pushed stories to CNN and MSNBC that it was nothing. It was all just a conspiracy theory. The director of the FBI said that. That's his words in the hearing last week. And then he's going to look into it and get to the bottom of it and figure out why that happened. And admitted they have the laptop. And what has been released that we know for a fact came off that laptop, besides a whole bunch of photographs of Hunter Biden naked in bathtubs, smoking meth and crack? We know from the email exchanges that were on that laptop and other documents that were on that laptop that have now been shown to the public that Joe Biden was fully aware of what his son was doing with China and with Ukraine, making billions. He was the big guy in those exchanges. And we know this because Hunter Biden's people that were in his inner circle making these deals have testified to that point. That yes, Joe Biden knew exactly what was going on when he was vice president of the United States. And yet, what's Joe Biden saying right now? And has been saying and continues to say, he knew nothing at all about what his son was doing. Zero, not a clue, not his doings, not his responsibility. And yet, the documents show otherwise. And the photos do too. Photos of Joe Biden attending meetings with Hunter and his associates doing these deals with China and Ukraine. Where you at on this, FBI? Core values. Respect. Nope, you lost that. Integrity. There's no fucking integrity there at all. Accountability? Fuck me running backwards. There's none at the FBI. Leadership? I've been bitching about the leadership of the FBI for quite some time now, and how corrupt it is and how it's become a political arm of the Democrat Party. Compassion? Fuck my ass. Fairness? Righteous obedience to the Constitution. Those core values of the FBI, that's shit. You shit on them. Take it down. Take it off your website because it's not true. It's a lie. Our mission, protect the American people and uphold the Constitution of the United States. Well, you failed to do that time and time again when it comes to Democrats. You only go after Republicans and conservatives. Our priorities: protect the U.S. against foreign intelligence, espionage, and cyber operations. Well, you failed that with Hillary Clinton and her email server, didn't you? Combat significant cyber criminal activity. You failed that with Hillary Clinton, didn't you? Combat public corruption at all levels. Really? Lady Justice wears a blindfold for a damn reason. And our FBI doesn't give a shit about it. It's look, for the most part, for the men and women of the FBI, the agents that are just out there every day, busting their ass, trying to do the right thing, my hat's off to you. I know for a fact that the FBI has some outstanding men and women that wake up every day to go out and try and do the right thing and live by those core values. But their leadership has become corrupt. And the American people have seen it unfold right in front of us on our television sets, in hearings. We have C-SPAN. We can watch that. We watched Hillary Clinton testify several times and get caught in back-to-back lies. And y'all let her go. You did nothing. Nothing. Just let her fucking walk. So what do we do? Let me start by telling you this much. Be very, very careful what you say in public, what you say on social media, what you say in text messages or emails. Because if you've been paying any attention to what the FBI has been doing since the January 6th mess up at the Capitol, and now everything that's been exposed with the FBI recently, you've been paying any attention to that? They're watching you. And they're going to take down as many conservatives, Republicans, and anyone that supported Donald J. Trump. So if you say the wrong thing that isn't protected under freedom of speech, they're going to take your ass down. Now, I say a lot of stuff in this show. I do toe the line. I'll be the first to admit that. But I also served 9 years faithfully in law enforcement. I was also a training officer, an FTO. I also fought and served with honor in the military for our Constitution and our rights. So I know a thing or two about freedom of speech. But a lot of people don't. And it's very, very easy in your frustration to say something or type something or post something on social media just because you're upset and pissed off. And you've got all right to be. Hell, if you're not angry about what's happening right now, then you're a Democrat. Because they're jumping for fucking joy. Again. So what do we do? Well, if you were to do your history on the Second Amendment, you would know what it was written for. But at the same time, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, the system through the years has been rigged so that that day ever comes, there's nothing you can do about it to exercise your Second Amendment rights, because then you will become a domestic terrorist and an enemy of the state, and they will go arrest your ass. You can't organize on social media. You can't organize in text messages or emails because they've got all that. They're monitoring all that. So don't do something stupid and say something stupid that's going to get your ass arrested and have the FBI knocking on your door. Be wise. So that's number one. Number two, midterms. Midterms, midterms, midterms. I don't give a damn if you have COVID and monkeypox together and you're hooked to a damn ventilator. Have something in writing that somebody's going to come up to your hospital bed and take your hand, put a fucking pin in it to check a box with early voting. We have to vote. And we have to run these corrupt individuals out of DC at the polling booths. If we show up in massive numbers like we did when Trump was elected, not like we did this last presidential election, but if we show up in record numbers that we overwhelm them at the polls, there's not a damn thing they can do in their corruptness to rig it. And you bring your friends and your family with you. And if you know somebody that's not registered to vote, you convince them, if they're an American and they can legally vote, to go register. And then, if the Republicans win back the House and the Senate, we can put an end to this nasty, corrupt government called the United States of America. It is not, I repeat, it is not the country that I served for. I don't recognize this shit anymore. It's very, very hurtful and painful to watch what our government is doing and getting away with. Not to mention what's happening at the border. Not to mention what's happening to the economy. Not to mention what's happening at the grocery store when you try and buy something. No, all that aside, it's not good, my friends. But we can fix it. And then once Republicans take back the House and the Senate, we hold their feet to the fire. We hold them accountable, and we make them do something this time. Because the last time they had 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue in the House and the Senate, name 3 things they did that was fucking positive for this country. Well, if you're still thinking it's because they didn't do shit, they sit on their fat, lazy ass. And they don't need to be there. There needs to be term limits in Congress. And we can make that happen. They work for us, not the other way around. We pay for the salary of the FBI that is doing these corrupt things. I really feel sorry for the men and women that work at the FBI that are doing a great job. I'm sorry that your leadership are a bunch of incompetent, politicalized tools of the Democrat Party. So, what happens if we don't win at midterms? What happens if Republicans don't wake up now and go out there on election day? I'm going to tell you right now what happens. America, as you know it, stick a fork in it, it's done. There will be no recovering from this. None. What they're doing right now is a distraction, my friends, to take the ball off of all the crazy, corrupt shit that's happening with the Biden administration, with our border, with our economy, with our military, and on and on and on. Show me one Democrat in Congress that's on record saying, and there's many of them been asked, on record saying, I want Joe Biden to run again in 2024. One. Show me one that's on record saying that. Even they don't want the Biden family involved anymore. So don't be fooled by the distraction. And don't be fooled by what the leadership of the FBI is doing. Don't turn against FBI agents because of their leadership. No different than you would against a police department because of their corrupt police chief or the sheriff of a sheriff's department if they happen to be corrupt. No. That's not how we handle things. We don't handle things with violence because you can't. The system's rigged to where it will never happen. Now, people can sit back and talk a big game and talk shit all day long, and there's a bunch of you doing it. I see it all over social media. What are we waiting on? When are we going to do this? We got to take back our country. Why are you getting out there? You can't. You fucking can't. Everybody that's attempted it is going to prison. The only way America can be saved is at the polls in massive numbers. There's no other way. I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against enemies, foreign, which I've already done, and domestic. And right now, we are fighting a domestic enemy in the United States of America, my friends. There's a war going on right now against conservatives, Republicans, and white people. But Antifa gets away. Black Lives Matter? Where's the investigation into the millions, if not billions of dollars collected by Black Lives Matter organization? We know that their leadership in those organizations bought million-dollar homes. It's all been shown to us. Where's the FBI in that? Aren't those people being arrested? When Antifa went and stormed up in Washington, D.C. and started torching police cars and attacking people on the street, why weren't they treated no different than what happened on January 6th? Vote. That is our answer. That is my answer. And it has to be done in a way that's massive. If we can't figure out how to round up the people to do that, then we deserve what's coming. And what's coming is a socialist, Nazi-type country. That's what we're faced with. As always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving in the United States military, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, our first responders and their families, our angel families, our blue and gold star families, and our country. And if you don't know what angel families are and you don't know what blue and gold star families are, please look that up. They need our support because this current administration and the Democrats are pissing on the graves of their loved ones. Please subscribe to the channel, ring the bell. And also go over to DouglasDucote.com and check out the website. Hope you all have a wonderful and blessed evening. Hope you think very, very hard about what all I had to say here tonight. We can, and hopefully we will, God willing, take back this country in November at midterms. That's my prayer to God every single day. Good night, everyone, and I'll see you soon.